There are memories that are so vivid for me, moments that spring such a massive change that it's like they've been carved into my heart, not just there in my mind and my memory, but they're frozen in time, and they still live with us, still inform our decisions, still speak to us, living realities carved out, that they carve out our direction forward as well as our past. You probably got them too. Meetings, miracles, moments of madness and sadness. I've got this image of the lads and me with Jesus in the boat. We used to go fishing back when that was our job, and our boat's there and it's riding up on this wave, and the boat's like a member of our family, beaten up and battered and rough and ordinary, and kind of how we all felt about ourselves before Jesus come along. The four of us, me, my brother Andrew, plus James, John, we're all leaning in this memory right over the side of the boat, like pulling in this massive fish-laden, net-breaking, finger-splitting haul of fish out of literally nowhere. Our thick fishermen's fingers are screaming with the pain of the weight of them fish. And there are seabirds like calling out in amazement and celebration above us, stationary on those clouds, preserved in that memory. Light glistens all around the fish in the water, seems to be boiling and frothing as they flop and splash together. And the man himself, if that's what we can call him, Jesus is standing firm in the middle of the whole thing. He's got his hands on his hips, his head's thrown back, he's letting out great belly loads of laughter as it happens. And it's such a strange feeling attached to that memory in that moment. I can feel the lack of gravity as the boat pivots on the wave and just reaches the crest, and now it's about to drop, and that moment of being weightless. That's what it was like, that whole moment. Jesus simply told us to throw our nets on the other side of the boat, and we went from nothing to everything in a moment. And later he says to me, "Follow me. I'll transform you from a man who catches fish to a man who brings in people." Do you have one of them moments for yourself? You can feel the King of the universe is asking you to come and follow him. I've got another one too. We're surrounded by thousands of people on a hill, and I can see us all there, but in my head I'm seeing it from like up on a hill or something, looking down on us. And there are some people moving in towards him, carrying the sick, and others have already seen him and they're running, jumping, laughing, leaping away from him. And they're at the side of the shadows under a tree. It's like a group of people who love the dark. They're talking with each other. And we can't even see them, but Jesus, he knows they're there. He knows everything that's going on. The bigger plan, the hearts and the minds of those who love him and those who hate him, and how they hated. Their hatred grew with every life that was being transformed, as if they wanted nothing to do with it all. Every person who was told they were forgiven, every eye that he made able to see brought them blindness, and every ear that's unblocked made them close their ears. Every evil spirit that he casts out makes jealousy and suspicion take its grip on them. He brought light and life. These people, they just live in darkness, and they stayed away from it all. I wonder where you are in that picture. Are you right there in the thick of it with us? Are you on your way there, bringing someone with you maybe, to be healed or forgiven? Maybe you're buzzing after you've met him already. Or do you find yourself still wanting to stay in that darkness? My darkest moment of my life so far, and by a fire. There's sparks hanging in the smoky air in front of me. And I've got a direct line of sight right through the madness and the soldiers and the onlookers and the servants and the flies, and through to Jesus. His eyes are fixed on mine. Even though we're in different spaces, I can feel his searching my heart. As a soldier looms over him a cruel whip floating there in the dark sky, hungry for Jesus' blood. The face of a servant lady is trying to get herself into my line of sight to confirm what I've just said for the third time, that I don't even know Jesus. And even though there's people everywhere, and there's a fire and the laughter and the screams, and the only sound in my head in that memory is the sound of a cockroach as it cries out its shrill, piercing scream for the second time. Jesus' eyes, those eyes, they lock on mine, and they're saying to me, I knew. It's okay. I can feel that moment now, that heart-sinking, shame-filled. Have you been living your life in a way that says to people, I don't know him? If you have, remember this. He does know. He sees you. It is going to be okay. All is not lost. There is still hope. I wasn't there at the cross. Only John and some of the women were there from the disciples, and we were all too afraid. I know this though. The sky went dark. The earth trembled. Rocks shattered open. And the curtain in the temple, that great thick divide between the holiest place and all of humanity, was ripped in two from the top to the bottom as Jesus gave his last breath. The power of life and forgiveness that exploded out of that perfect sacrifice for all of humanity. It couldn't be hidden from the physical world. All of us knew it. We knew something had changed inside us all. Like that moment on the crest of the wave, that weightless hanging moment. But this time it was for all of creation, all people everywhere. And even creation itself. Liberation for everything. Release from the bondage of the decay of death, and a way back into fullness of life. I do remember where I was when I heard that the grave were empty. I remember the run from the house all the way to the tomb, a run that felt like it took forever and felt like it took no time at all. In that moment, the moment at the tomb entrance, it's carved into every fibre of my soul. I can still feel the beads of sweat running from my forehead down the cheek here, from the race to get there, my heart pounding within me, but not just because of the run, because of the hope that it were true. I can see John's face in front of me turning towards me from the dark mouth of the entrance of the tomb. His face is like a mix of a heart filled with unbelief and belief, amazement and fulfillment of expectation. Jesus had told us. He told us he would beat death, but none of us understood what he meant. He told us, he gave us the sign of Jonah. 3 days he'd be in the belly of the earth, and then he would spring back to life again. We had that seed of truth, but no concept of how it was all going to play out, In this memory, I'm stooping in. I've got one hand holding onto the wall outside the tomb, and my eyes are not yet adjusting to the darkness, and I've got the smell of early morning dew and the smell of stale air, and Jesus is gone. I felt panic, relief, confusion. My mind was like racing all over my memories, trying to piece together stuff that Jesus had said, and at the same time, there was like this peace about it all. Like, even though it made no sense at all, it was the only thing about anything that made any sense at all. Jesus, that disruptive, inclusive, accessible, holy, powerful, vulnerable, majestic, ordinary, extraordinary, revolutionary, humble, miraculous, kind, gentle, harsh, divisive, loving, patient, joyful, wonder man. He was alive. It brought challenge, it brought peace, hope, light. It brought freedom and forgiveness and faith and compassion and change and restoration. And now he was going to keep on, bringing all those things, being all those things, now and forever. God with his people, all people, everywhere, for all of time. Can you feel it too? Can you feel that phoenix-like resurrection power at work in you? You don't need to have it all explained or all thought through. None of us felt like we were well qualified or good enough, or none of us. But that resurrection power, that life that springs up inside you like water from a freshly dug well in a dry and parched land, it burst up out of you. Jesus burst up out of that grave. His never-ending fountain of living water. Can you feel it? Open up those gates inside you. Open up that more and more and more, and allow this new life, this revolutionary life, to fill you from top to toe. Top to toe. There are memories so vivid, moments that bring such massive change, that it is like they're carved onto your heart, not just your mind, and they're frozen in time. Somehow they still live right with us. They still inform our decisions. They still speak to us. Living realities that are carving out our direction forwards as well as our past.